By the way, if you're new to Empowered Flower Girl, hello, I'm Rasheda Kamaria. I'm the Chief Empowering Officer for Empowered Flower Girl. I'm a mentor and author, and I really love discussing digital citizenship, online reputation management, and anything that relates to mentoring and empowering youth to live powerfully. Okay, so tonight's discussion, we're getting a little late start simply because I was trying to go live on my phone and that was a disaster. And now I'm trying this on my laptop just to see how it works. So today's discussion again is how to ditch the digital drama. And we all know that there is a lot of that going on. So today's conversation is sure to be relevant and relatable to a lot of us, especially with everyone, and I mean everyone, being online these days, working from home, and also having Zoom happy hours, graduation celebrations. I mean, everything we're doing, right, is virtual. And so is this discussion. I've hosted and facilitated workshops in person on the same topic, but it's always great to be able to speak and share insights and have a discussion with a more expanded audience. So thank you if you're joining me. That's great. If you can't watch this live, that's okay. Of course, the video will be up and there will be a replay of it. Okay. Once again, tonight's subject is ditch the digital drama. And with the climate, of everything that's going on, of course, from the fallout of COVID-19 to civil unrest that continues in the United States, there's been a lot of drama. So much has gone on. Our lives have completely changed. We're all online now. We're keeping updated on the latest events with the 24-hour media news cycle, right? And we're also keeping up to date in each other's lives, whether it's through Zoom conference meetings or we're doing FaceTime more often with those we love. Even some of the summer camps I've seen are going virtual, okay? And so that means, especially for our young people, they are definitely online more than ever. And in fact, I just saw a recent statistic that about 90%, close to 90% of young people, that's middle school, high school, are engaging online or have some sort of social media account, okay, and that they're active on it as well. Now, many of you may say, well, kids have always been online. This is common. Yes, of course. Generation Z, they were born with the internet, right? They've been connected. They've been exposed to the information, or as I call it, the too much information age since birth. And while I believe that, of course, the internet is a great tool and resource for us all, it keeps us connected and it keeps us informed. However, we all know that there are some aspects of online communication and engagement that can be a little scary, that can also have an adverse effect on our mental health. And also, there are some things that we can easily get into that maybe we shouldn't, right? I remember back in 2017, I actually wrote a blog, and it was called "How to F Up Your Summer in 5 Simple Steps." Okay, excuse the crassness of the title, but at that time, it was there was so much drama going on. It was unbelievable, the amount of calls that Empowered Flower Girl was getting from schools and organizations, but mostly schools, saying that the students are posting inappropriate content, they're cyberbullying each other. There's so much drama and conflict that's happening online, right? So many of these young people were getting in trouble. So the schools were wondering, how are we going to deal with this? What are we going to do to keep young people out of trouble? Okay. What are we going to do to keep them safe and smart and kind online? Okay. you may have seen in the description of this live discussion that that's our goal, right? To keep young people safe, smart, and kind online. In fact, myself and one of my business partners and really good friends, Smiley the Hip Hop Clown, shout out to Smiley the Hip Hop Clown here in the Detroit area. Well, we partnered for an assembly called Be Safe, Be Smart, Be Kind Online. And it was an amazing experience, but it also was very helpful to learn how young people were engaging online and some of the content that they were posting, how some young people didn't even know that what they were posting and sharing was inappropriate and in some cases illegal. So we're going to be talking about some of those things, but we're also going to be talking about how you can, ditch the drama this summer. Okay, so things are opening back up and the summer is starting to sizzle, right? So you don't want to do something this early on to mess it all up, okay? And I'll be talking about the 5 simple steps to mess up your summer, okay? Because we want to avoid that. We want to avoid the digital drama so that we can have an amazing summer, okay? As much as we can, with everything that's going on, there's still an opportunity for us to make a difference and also enjoy ourselves. Okay. But we have to be smart about it. So, again, that's what we're going to talk about. So, first, I would just like to say that when I wrote the blog, it was 3 years ago, right? It was in 2017. And that's when we were hired to facilitate the workshop in the middle school. Okay, so middle school, you think roughly 11 to 14 years old, right? And the students were sharing some inappropriate content, they were sharing inappropriate photos and videos. Okay, so for me, hearing that was very eye opening because not that I didn't know that young people were sharing inappropriate content, but I didn't realize how much they didn't know about the content they were sharing, but also those who had experienced cyberbullying and were victims of online harassment, how many of them really, really did not know that things that were happening to them were actually a crime. So many young people often don't realize that cyberbullying and bullying, um, when it becomes a crime, it could become a hate crime. There's also cyber stalking, and we'll discuss that. And for many people, I'm not going to make an assumption that people know the difference between bullying and cyberbullying. Okay, bullying happens. Bullying could be a physical threat. It could be a form of exclusion. Okay, and it's done purposeful. Okay, and there's always a power imbalance when bullying happens. Some of the bullying that we see often with boys can be physical, pushing and shoving, things like that. Also, with girls, it tends to be more of the exclusion. I'm not inviting you to my party and don't sit with us at this table, cliques. Some people think, okay, I'm not a part of, this particular group. And there's daily harassment that's going on. Okay. With bullying, there's an intent. The intent is to hurt or harm someone. Again, it's done intentionally. Teasing someone, teasing is a little different than bullying, but we know that sometimes bullying, just the name calling, can turn really quickly into something that is very hurtful and can do a lot of harm, especially mentally to our young people, but also to adults as well. Now, when it comes to cyberbullying, of course, it is done online or through electronic media, not just on your laptops or on your computers or anything like that. Your cell phones can also be ways for bullies or cyber bullies to reach you. Okay, so electronic communication, that could be even through texting. Okay, receiving those harassing text messages. Some people don't even realize that their children have been victims. You know why? Because often children who are victims of cyberbullying, they don't feel comfortable telling their parents. Okay, and some of them may feel ashamed to tell their parents in the first place because maybe they were surfing somewhere online that they shouldn't have been. What do I mean by this? So there are lots of apps out there for young people. Um, Everything from the social media apps, of course, like we're watching, okay, on Facebook Live, right? There's Facebook, but of course there's TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, okay? But also young people, even those who are under the age of 18, are using online dating apps, okay? And most of these online dating apps are really reserved for adults, 18 and up, but occasionally children under the age of 18 do create accounts. And sometimes when young people create these accounts, they encounter even adults, not just other teens, but adults who are pretending to be teens. Okay, not everyone online is who they say they are, right? We do recognize this, but many young people may not. And so when the relationship turns a little more sinister and insidious, and they start to receive threats, or there may be some form of sextortion, which I'll talk about in a moment. They're afraid to tell their parents, right, or a trusted adult because they feel like, well, I shouldn't have been on there in the first place. So, I can't really reveal that information. But if you're a young person and you're watching this video, or if you work with or have young people in your lives, make sure that you have the discussion with them, okay? Because it can turn very serious. A lot of young people are hurting each other and hurting themselves, okay, from the drama that's happening online. And it can be very serious. So I just want, anyone who has felt victimized, who right now may be suffering in silence because you think that you can't tell anyone, find someone who you may connect with, even if it is a trusted friend or another adult in your life. If you're receiving threatening messages, okay, because we sometimes, we don't just receive comments about us that we don't like, right? Unfavorable comments. Someone says, okay, I don't like your outfit or I don't like your hair, right? Okay, we may get those. But sometimes people literally get threats, threats to their lives, or sometimes there's some form of extortion. I know young people have experienced that. And, it really hurts when that happens to them and they feel that they can't turn to anyone and they feel like no one is really there to listen. Okay, so if you are a young person and you've been a victim of this sort of thing, reach out to someone. Okay, there are a few resources that I will share after this post. I will share them to the Empowered Flower Girl Facebook page, and I'll let you know about some of those resources that are available to young people and families. One of them is stopbullying.gov. Okay, there's a bullying and cyberbullying helpline, but also as a resource, they give you information on where to go to find out about some of the laws in your states. Okay, because all 50 states, okay, if you live in the US, every state has some form of anti-bullying law, okay, and that includes cyberbullying in most cases. And in fact, I learned something a couple years back. Many cities also have additional ordinances that outlaw bullying and cyberbullying and make them a misdemeanor. Okay, so keep that in mind. Okay, because we're not just talking about hurt feelings, we're talking about laws being broken. Okay, and if you have experienced online harassment or cyber stalking, which is also a problem, there are some protections that you have. Okay, so stopbullying.gov is one of them. And also another resource that I would recommend is stompoutbullying.org. Okay, they're a great resource as well. Both of those I highly recommend to youth as well as adults who work with young people. Okay, so I just want to again talk about different ways that we can avoid online drama. Okay, it is very easy to get into online drama, and many people are experiencing the fallout of that, right? As I mentioned earlier, I put together a blog a few years ago that talks about how people will mess up their summer before it even begins. Okay, we know that cyberbullying is a problem. We know that these things are issues that affect people of all ages and not just children and teens, right? We are seeing that many adults are having issues and challenges with online drama. Some are the culprits, they're starting it, but some of us have been victims of cyberbullying and other online drama. Okay, so before we go today, I just want to get into those top 5 ways to mess up your summer, okay, with online drama. So we're going to start with number 5, okay? How you can get into digital drama and mess up your summer? Get into a fight with a celebrity or even the president online. Okay, now I say this jokingly, but we all know that it's very easy for us to make comments on celebrities' Facebook pages. We tweet mean tweets, celebrities all the time. They read their mean tweets. Oftentimes we don't really think about their feelings, right? We just post how we feel, from their overuse of Photoshop to some of the wild and outrageous things that they do. Okay. We're very vocal with our opinions about these celebrities, but one thing you don't want to do is get into an online fight with a celebrity or politician. And why do I say this? Because they have big audiences, okay? And people like Beyonce, okay, I'm just going to say this. Her fan base, they are very serious, okay? And you may get stung by the beehive, okay? So just keep that in mind, okay? So don't get into fights with celebrities, okay? Because then you have people from all over the world coming at you, and then there's this whole debacle. You can have an opinion, but you want to save that kind of drama, right? It's very unnecessary. Okay, so number 4, the fourth way that you can really mess up your summer before it even begins with digital drama, by putting your friends and family on blast via social media. And it doesn't matter the platform, right? Putting, a family member or friend that you're having a problem with, just airing out all your dirty laundry. No, that's not cool, right? You can have a conversation with that person. I would definitely recommend picking up the phone. You can make a call or you can send a text. Or maybe you might even have a Zoom meeting. That's a possibility. However, okay, maybe not a Zoom meeting, but I would definitely recommend getting on a call. Okay, what's the harm in it, right? Instead of making some shady post on social media about your best friend or maybe even your sibling, how, you two just don't get along or how you had a fight about something and sharing that with everyone, right? You can avoid all of that by having a one-on-one conversation. Okay, definitely recommend that. Number 3, the third thing that you can do to really mess up your summer and create digital drama is to post incriminating photos and videos. Okay? Now, we've all seen this. People will be out engaging in illegal or illicit activity, right? Doing drugs, staying out past curfew, right? I've seen some young people posting when they were supposed to be at home and they were posting how they were out hanging with their friends and then they got in trouble. Okay? I know someone who personally did that, so I would say don't do it. Okay? That's going to cause some drama. But yes, posting incriminating and illicit content online. Okay? Don't snap inappropriate photos of yourself. Okay? Please do not post and share inappropriate photos via text, okay? And I have to say this because I know that maybe some people, maybe don't realize this, but sharing any type of nude photos or videos of sexual nature, especially of minors, even if you yourself are a minor, well, that's illegal. And you can face child pornography distribution charges. Okay, so that's very serious. You don't want to be 13 and on the sex offenders registry, right? Okay, so when you receive that sort of content, okay, you're going to want to report it, delete it. If you have that on your phone, someone sent it to you, let your parent know. You didn't ask for it, because oftentimes that happens as well, right? You receive some content, you're like, whoa, where did this come from? Okay, so you definitely don't want to share it. Even if it's someone you may know, you don't want to share it to your friends, because again, you can face some serious consequences. Okay, and number two, okay, which we are seeing a lot of in this climate, right? Number two, the second way to mess up your summer before it even begins with online drama is by making racist and homophobic comments on social media. Okay, you would think that people would realize this, but no, even adults. Okay, well, I should not say even, especially adults. We've seen it day after day. Someone makes inappropriate content about certain groups of people, and they are getting their entire livelihoods snatched. Okay, people are losing their jobs for these bigoted comments. Okay, so you're going to want to stay away from that. I mean, change your thinking, right? But everything that's in your head doesn't have to be said. Okay? I like that. What's in my head doesn't have to be said. That's something that I say to myself, and I think that's, a rule of thumb. Not everything that we're thinking needs to be written and shared in a post. Okay? Especially if it's offensive to groups of people. All right? So, just think about that. Right? We all have our opinions, and we all have things that we're passionate about. Okay, I'm not saying censor yourself, not saying that at all. You don't have to not express yourself. However, you want to rethink things. And this is with anything, whether it's a text or an email or a social media post. Think about how the people receiving it, who are on the other end, think about how they would feel when they see it. Okay, if it's not something that you would share with your employer or your mother or your grandma, just think about those things, right? It's something that you don't want them to see and that you wouldn't be proud of, then why share it for everyone? And I mean everyone to see. Okay? So we really have to think about that, the content that we're posting. Okay? You know, I would definitely recommend not participating in some of these online challenges. Some of them that I've seen have been so despicable, especially the knee challenge. Okay, we all know with George Floyd and the way that he was murdered, it was awful, right? We know we don't even want to relive that, but yet people are having social media challenges, reenacting the whole scene. Okay, that's not cool. Okay, so please don't make racist and homophobic comments online. That's one sure way to mess up your summer and kiss your job opportunities, scholarship opportunities, and maybe even your internships. So, surefire way to kiss those goodbye. Okay, people are reporting it and people will see it. Okay, and finally, the number one way to mess up your summer. Actually, I changed that. Okay, this is not the number one way to mess up your summer. In fact, it's the top way to have a great summer, okay, and avoid the digital drama is by doing something productive. Okay, I definitely recommend doing something productive with your time, something that inspires you, right? Something that will inspire others, whether that's volunteering or if it's doing a hobby that you love, or trying something new. Okay, keeping yourself busy and out of trouble online. Okay, that will ensure that you have an awesome summer. Okay, so we're going to avoid the online drama, right? We're going to stay away, from getting into fights with politicians and celebrities. We're not going to put our family and friends on blast via social media. We're definitely not going to post incriminating or illicit content online or via text, okay? We're certainly not going to make racist and homophobic comments and not expect to get some backlash, right? We're just not going to do it, okay, please? And what we are going to do, we are going to stay productive, okay? In fact, how about we make kindness go viral? Okay, that would be great to make kindness go viral. I would really love that. Okay, so definitely if you want to find out more information about the content and some of the tools and resources that was shared in this conversation, follow Empowered Flower Girl. If you're not already, follow Empowered Flower Girl via social media on Facebook. We're also on Instagram and Twitter. We're on Twitter at EFG Empowered. Facebook and Instagram, it's Empowered Flower Girl. So we'll be doing Facebook Lives every Thursday, just about. We'll be covering content ranging from digital citizenship and social media to social entrepreneurship and how to engage youth in your programs. Okay, so just want to just remind you to be safe, smart, and kind online. Okay, be conscious of the information that you're sharing. And also, if you have been a victim of cyberbullying, sextortion, on other forms of online harassment or hate crime, remember there are legal protections for you. And I would definitely recommend documenting the harassment. Okay, definitely take screenshots and share them with your local authorities. If you are a young person, and again, you may not feel comfortable having the conversation with a parent, you may want to first talk to another trusted adult in your family, or maybe even a mentor or other relative who can help you out and kind of bridge the conversation for you to have with your parent. Or if you feel that you have been the victim of a hate crime, I would definitely recommend following up on that. There are some great tips, again, on stopbullying.gov that talk about some of your protections against hate crimes. And also, there are attorneys who can speak with you who often take these cases pro bono, and that means that they won't even charge. There are some people who are out there who really want to help you, so that you're not having more drama and trauma in your life. Okay, so again, we're going to be safe, smart, and kind online, and we are going to have an amazing summer. So thank you for joining me. I hope everyone was able to see me and hear me clearly. Yeah, I'm not even at home right now. I know a lot of people power went out from the storm, so we had to get back on here and get set up. So if you're not watching this live, that's perfectly fine. I'll keep the video posted, and later this evening, I will post all of the resources that were shared. Again, follow us at Empowered Flower Girl, and you can go online to our website, empoweredflowergirl.com, for more information and check out our blog. All right, take care and have a great evening.